welcome to our concert. We're so glad that you're here with us today, and we hope that you enjoy our program presented by the Lyric Band of Hanover. If you would please honor America by rising and join us in the singing of our national anthem. Once again, thank you for being here. Very much appreciate your attendance, and like I said, I hope that you enjoy our program this afternoon. We have an interesting concert. If you haven't heard, the theme of our concert is Our Favorite Things. Kind of thought it would be a nice idea for our 85th anniversary to allow the band members themselves to pick their favorite pieces. And I think they came up with a pretty good program, quite frankly, and I hope that you agree when it's all said and done. Our first selection that we're going to do for you today is Invictus. It's by Carl King. It was Carl King's piece that he wrote in 1921. He was actually 30 years old at the time. Carl King is a very famous American bandmaster and also a composer of circus marches. Invictus. In November of 1932, 16 musicians gathered at the old Parkville Fire Hall on 889 Baltimore Street in Hanover. And they basically got together and said, we're forming a band. And they chartered the Lyric Band of Hanover. Paul Baker was elected the first president of the band, and Harry W. Schwartzbaugh was appointed the first conductor. Approximately 10 years prior to that, and I guess I should give you a little history here. At the time that the Lyric Band was formed, it was essentially a time period where band music was in a little bit of a state of flux. The first 2 decades of the 1900s was just a heyday of concert bands, professional concert bands, community bands. Just about every community had their own little city band, if you will. That was starting to go away, by the time the 30s came along. So the Lyric Band was literally kind of bucking a trend. It was generally around the time of the early 30s that school band programs finally started to take hold in our school programs. Orchestra programs had been in schools for years and decades, but not band programs. Band programs at schools were essentially completely extracurricular. They were developed strictly to support football games. And it was really not until the beginnings of the national band competitions in Chicago, Illinois, that they finally started to see a growth of school districts that were including band in their curriculum. As an example, in 1929, there were only 140 schools in the nation that had school band programs. By the time 1941 came along and we got involved in World War II, there were well over 160,000 schools that had that. So we've never seen an explosion of music in our schools like that we had in those few decades. Well, this was the time that the Lyric Band was coming about. Hanover had still not gotten onto that swing of getting a school band program. The Lyric Band got started and actually at one point had its own cadet band, a little school-age training band to help train people to become members of the Lyric Band. The literature at the time, strictly marches, incidental pieces written for an occasion, for example, or transcriptions of orchestral music. That was pretty much all there was. Well, about 10 years before the Lyric Band was formed, there was a gentleman, very well-known composer from England by the name of Gustav Holst. He was an English composer. He had international fame. He was a professional trombonist and also a teacher of composition and organ. He wrote operas, ballets, symphonies, and chamber music. And his first suite in E flat and the piece that we're going to play, his second suite in F, are two of the very first important compositions ever written for the modern day concert band, or as it was named, military band at that time. It's written in 4 movements. The first one is entitled March, Song Without Words, the Song of the Blacksmith, and the finale is the Fantasia on the Dargesan. Very classic piece of band literature. Second suite in F by Gustav Holst. Got to turn this on first. About a year after we were formed, in 1933, the band moved into the old Melbourne building, which became eventually the Wachovia Bank on Carlisle Street. 3 years later, in the winter of 1936, the Lyric Band began doing weekly radio broadcasts on station WORK-AM and also on the Hanover AM station as well, whose call letters just happened to slip right out of my head right at this moment. HVR, thank you. So those radio broadcasts went on weekly for quite some time, and was really, to folks who have told me, it was kind of a highlight of people's weeks. They would wait to hear those broadcasts of the Lyric Band, which were broadcast, by the way, right from the Lyric Band Hall. In May of 1938, the band purchased the former YMCA building at 20 York Street, and that is our present home to this very day. We established a social club and conducted years of weekly dances, which we have pictures of. Actually had our own plateware and silverware with lyric band logos and all this kind of stuff. It was pretty official. We also started weekly bingo games. The auditorium also served for the venue for concerts. The bingo games still continue to this day. We have every Friday night a bingo game, and that's our major source of revenue. So a lot of things happening in the first few years that we were in existence. The next piece I'd like to play for you, or have the band play for you, excuse me, and I'm not playing a thing, obviously, is entitled Loch Lomond by Frank Tikelly. In 1746, the United Kingdom was already formed, but the Scots wanted a Scottish king. They didn't want one from England. So an army of 7,000 Scottish Highlanders went to do battle for the right to have their own Scottish king. They were defeated pretty strongly at the Battle of Culloden Moor, and this particular battle actually created this song, Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond tells the story of two soldiers who were captured and imprisoned by the British at the Scottish border. As was tradition at that time, and I guess a sign of their compassion, the English would say, one of you will die, one of you will be released. Well, Celtic legend has it that if someone dies in a foreign land, his soul travels home by the low road. So this song is sung from the point of view of the soldier to be executed. Oh, you'll take the high road, and I'll take the low road, if you get the context, but I'll be in Scotland before ye. But me and my true love shall never meet again at the bonny, bonny shores of Loch Lomond. I hope you enjoy it. One thing that's really cool about this is Tikelly really keeps the simple charm of Loch Lomond and actually finally combines it with the traditional Irish tune, O Danny Boy, and you will hear that come through as we get to the end. Hope you enjoy it. Well, things ran around pretty well for a couple of decades with the Lyric Band, but of course during the time 1942 to 1945, the Lyric Band had a trouble surviving because so many of its members went off to war to serve their country. They did survive it though, they got through and made it all the way through that time period and continued to thrive after that. 1955, the first sad thing that came about with the band was their original conductor, Harry W. Schwartzball, passed away. But immediately after that, in 1955, his son, Harry E. Schwartzball, was appointed the conductor of the band. Walter Smith was born in 1890, died in 1937. Even though he only lived for 47 years, he's universally regarded as one of the greatest virtuosos on the cornet. If he had had enough time to continue to take advantage of recording techniques, he probably would have been more famous than he was. As it was, he was one of the first to take advantage of these newfangled records, and the recording techniques to actually record the first solos for cornet. He's best known as the principal cornetist with the Goldman Band, but also as a soloist and a teacher. This particular selection, Three Kings, is one of several written for the cornet by Smith. And our soloists today come from the band. First of all, we'll have Mr. Ivan Franz, who graduated from York Suburban before serving 6 years in the Navy, playing in the band on the USS South Carolina. Ivan has been a member of the Lyric Band for more than 25 years. In fact, is one of our life members. He has served in many capacities as president, bingo chairman, trustee, you name it. So he's been with us a long time. Secondly, we have Mr. David Apple, who holds a bachelor's degree from Towson State University, master's degree from Shenandoah University Conservatory of Music, and Dave also has musical studies at LSU. He's currently director of bands at Glenwood Middle School in Howard County, and is also assistant conductor of the Lyric Band. Also, we have Mr. Sean Altland. He joined the United States Marine Corps in 1985, directly after graduating from Spring Grove High School. He was sent to the Naval School of Music in Norfolk, Virginia, where he graduated in 1986. Sean was first stationed in Quantico, Virginia, performing with the Marine Band there. In '88, he moved on to 29 Palms, California, and stationed with the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center. He performed first with the Drum and Bugle Corps and later with the Combat Center Field Band. From there, he went to Okinawa, Japan, performing with the 3rd Marine Corps Expeditionary Force Band. After leaving the Marines in 1992, he joined the Hanover Lancers Drum and Bugle Corps. In 1998, Sean rejoined the Marine Corps, performing with the Commandant's own Drum and Bugle Corps, where he had the opportunity to perform for several presidents and multiple dignitaries as emissaries and events around the world, until he was discharged in 2002. Love of music brought him back to the Hanover Lancers in 2014 and to the Lyric Band in 2015. And he's since joined both the Littlestown Band and the Elysia Band, and in 2018 joined the Troublemakers Trumpet Quartet. So would you please help me in welcoming our trio to the stage. They said I needed to talk a while after that, and they need to recover a bit. After we got started with Harry W. Swartzwell, it was only about 7 years later that Bruce Weiser was named the conductor of the Hanover High School Band, and also was then named the conductor of the Lyric Band, and he took over in 1962. Unfortunately, in 1964, 2 years later, the weekly broadcasts, radio broadcasts that I talked about earlier, came to an end. But in 1969, we began the Sunday evening concerts at the Cadorus State Park, Lake Marburg, in the band shell, and they continue to this very day, and will start up once again this summer. And things went along smoothly, somewhat, here and there, as we go through the next couple of decades. The next piece we're going to do for you is actually from orchestral literature. It's Night on Bald Mountain. It was written by Modest Mussorgsky, who was a member of the Russian Five. The Russian Five were a group of Russian composers who believed that the only way you could have truly correct Russian music was to use Russian folk tunes. So they weaved those into all the pieces that they wrote. This particular piece, Night on Bald Mountain, was actually used in the classic movie, the Walt Disney movie, Fantasia. Modest Mussorgsky was a master of the tone poem, which is music that's used to describe a scene or elicit a mood, and this is no different. This particular arrangement for band was done by Lloyd Conley. In this piece, the witches gather on Bald Mountain. They wind up gossiping, playing tricks on each other, and wait for the arrival of Satan. When he arrives, they form a circle around his throne and dance and sing his praises. When Satan is ready, he then chooses the witches who wound up catching his fancy. Alas for them, dawn arrives, and the entire event disappears with the appearance of dawn, which you'll catch in the mood of the music as it changes. Hope you enjoy it. It's Night on Bald Mountain. We have one more selection before we take an intermission break. I promise you, this is the heavy side. We're almost done with all the heavy stuff. The second half is going to be a little bit more fun and a little bit lighter in some respects. But in any case, we're going to do one more tune here before we take an intermission. This is called A March and Procession of Bacchus. Leo Delibes wrote a ballet, Sylvia, in 1876. Despite the pagan nature of the ballet, the music is really rather delightful. You'll recognize some of the brass fanfares, the inspiring melodies that are in this piece, and this particular piece opens up Act 3 of the ballet. Delibes was a French composer of ballets and operas. He studied at the Paris Conservatory. His other famous opera was Coppelia. He was a great influence, though, most importantly, on Tchaikovsky, Saint-Saëns, and Debussy. And this makes him one of my favorites. He was one of the first to write for the saxophone. So, he's good in my book. Anyway, we hope you enjoy it. March and Procession of Bacchus, and we'll see you after intermission. Piece you just heard was Them Basses. It was by Geddy Hoffheim, and he was a self-taught American composer, tubist, and trombonist. He was a Kentuckian, spent several years in circus bands, and worked as a music engraver. Them Basses was published in 1924. It was his best-known march. It's what's called a circus screamer, which is used to stir up an audience's excitement during a show. It also answers the age-old musician's question, why do I have to learn scales? Well, we jump ahead a little bit in our history as a lyric band and go all the way now to 1983. Bruce Weiser, of course, took over in 1962 as conductor, and in 1983 he left town for other employment and resigned as conductor of the Lyric. Conducting duties were then shared primarily between three gentlemen, Kevin Baum, Jeff Baker, James Hughes, and of course many other guest conductors. Around this time also, and just prior to this time, the band was pretty much just doing the summer concert series and then was dormant the rest of the year. It wasn't until 1990 that we actually named another conductor of the band, and that's when Edward Gobrecht Jr., who was actually a former member of the band way back, and also professor of music at Ithaca College, and he was appointed conductor of the band in 1990. In 1992, for its 60th anniversary, the Lyric Band actually produced an anniversary concert record, and we sold it to the public and all that sort of thing. We haven't done anything like that since that time. The next piece that we're going to do for you is entitled The Light Eternal. It was written by James Swearingen. He is assistant professor of music education at Capital University. He's also very active as a conductor, adjudicator, and clinician. His compositions for band are widely acclaimed and performed throughout the world. The Light Eternal is based on the hymn, God of Our Fathers, and it reflects on the story of the four chaplains who on February 3rd, 1943, were on the ship SS Dorchester, which sank off the coast of Greenland, the victim of a German U-boat. One of the four chaplains, interestingly enough, was David Good, a rabbi from York, Pennsylvania. As the ship was sinking, the story goes from eyewitnesses that the four chaplains helped as many men as they possibly could, even giving up their own life jackets and making sure as many men could get off that ship as possible. Survivors actually tell the story that their very last sighting of the four chaplains, one a Methodist, one Dutch Reformed, one Catholic, and one Jewish, was with them with arms linked and praying in English, Hebrew, and Latin to the same God as they went down with 600 other soldiers. It's kind of a poignant story, but yet inspiring too. I'll warn you ahead of time, we have some sound effects on this one, so be prepared for it, but hope you enjoy it. It's called The Light Eternal. Every once in a while we slip up. I forgot to have our flute soloist stand Jamie Brown on that solo. Well, things moved along for the Lyric Band for another 10 years, and finally, in the year 2001, May of 2001, yours truly was appointed musical director of the Lyric Band. Ed Gobrecht was awarded the title of conductor emeritus, and these folks have seen fit to keep me here all this time, so I don't know if I'm doing anything right. Probably can't find anybody else to do it this week. Anyway, in the spring of 2002, we wound up celebrating our 70th anniversary, and that was really a neat event because we returned to the Eichelberger stage, which is where we began. Some of our first concerts were in the Eichelberger School, and after 60 years of absence, we finally were able to get back to the stage. We brought in Colonel Brian Shelburne, who was the former conductor of the United States Army Band, and he served as guest conductor, and that actually revived the tradition that we still have going today of having a spring concert for the Lyric Band. And I'll leave it at that. We'll finish up here in the next one. The next piece we'd like to do for you is The Comedian's Gallop, and it was written by Dmitry Kabalevsky. Kabalevsky was part of Stalin's control of the arts in 1930s. He produced children's opera, of which The Comedians was one. It offers a little bit of a feature for the xylophone, and this is the third movement of 10 from the play. The band arrangement was done by Eric Leidzin. Many of you may recognize this one. It's called Comedian's Gallop. Well, in the spring of 2002, as I said, we celebrated our 70th anniversary, and in January of 2007, the Lyric Band returned to the Eichelberger stage again to begin the celebration of our 75th year. The band, for that event, wound up performing with Dr. Michael Burritt and the Northwestern University Percussion Ensemble. August of that same year, the Lyric Band and the New Holland Band revived a tradition that we had had of doing an exchange concert. This tradition had ended in 1980. The Lyric Band performed at the New Holland Community Park, and the New Holland Band performed at Cadora State Park. It worked really well for a few years, but then unfortunately the New Holland Band lost control of the community park, and the community, basically wasn't really interested in having another concert band anymore. So we unfortunately had to let that exchange tradition fall apart, and that's a shame because it was such fun. And then, of course, October 2007, we celebrated our diamond anniversary with a concert again at the Eichelberger Performing Arts Center. We basically have continued our work with doing fall, winter, spring concerts, doing our summer concert series at Cadora State Park. We participate in the Memorial Day event at Hanover, at the cemetery. And we also provide a service by playing for the PIW MIA service that's held at the American Legion every September. So, we're continuing to keep ourselves active. It really wasn't too long ago, believe it or not, back in the 90s, that we almost went bankrupt. We literally, as a board, were sitting there, and actually, I was on the board. I wasn't conductor yet, but I was on the board, and I know we were having serious discussions about selling the building and disbanding because we just had no money and we weren't getting any in. Thankfully, we did come up with some ideas and ways to generate funds, keep ourselves alive, and here we are, 85 years later. So thank you. And so I hope that we'll have 85 more years because things are going really, really well. I also want to take a moment, if you don't mind, to recognize a couple of folks. 1 second. Once a member of the band has reached a certain age and have a certain number of years of service in the band, they are eligible for what we call life memberships. And I'm just really thrilled to be able to induct 2 more people as life members into our band. The first one is Jolene Fennell. Jolene has been a member of the Lyric Band since 1970 when she finished 7th grade. Her father, Merle Whistler, brought her along, who also plays in the band, by the way, brought her along to rehearsals and performances, and at this time there were only a few adult and teenage females in the band. Jolene continued to perform with the Lyric during her Hanover high school years, where she also earned district band honors twice and was awarded the John Philip Sousa Award for Musical Excellence. While earning her BS in elementary education, she performed with the Clarion State College Band and enjoyed playing with the Lyric on her summer breaks. Marriage and a new teaching position took the Fennells to West Virginia for 8 years. She earned her master's degree in curriculum and instruction from West Virginia University. 2 sons later, and another new teaching position brought the Fennells back to the Hanover area in 1988, allowing them to return to our Tuesday evening rehearsals and summer concerts. Their daughter was born literally a few days after the last concert of that summer. The Lyric Band is an important part of Jolene's life. She spent 13 years as librarian and volunteers at bingo regularly. Since her retirement from her 37-year teaching career, she appreciates having more time to practice and perform with several community organizations and volunteers at Conewago Valley School District, the VNA, and church activities. Jolene, first of all, thanks her father for not giving her a choice about band practice. I like that. The many conductors who challenged her musically and the numerous peers who modeled styles and techniques and made her laugh. Jolene has been involved with the Lyric Band for 2/3 of her life and looks forward to more years of making musical memories. Really proud to present to you Jolene Fennell. This one reads kind of similar. It's Charlie Fennell. No, it's a little different. Okay. Charlie was born and raised in Western Pennsylvania, where he acquired an early love of band music by listening to John Philip Sousa marches recorded on cardboard 45s. Imagine that. He began playing the trombone in the 4th grade and played throughout high school, where he added tuba to his resume. After graduating high school in 1971, Charlie became a member of the award-winning Katanning Firemen's Band of Katanning, Pennsylvania. Upon going to college to pursue his other love, history, he played in musical organizations at Villanova University, Frostburg State University, and Clarion State University, where he met the true love of his life, Jolene. It was Jolene who introduced Charlie to the Lyric Band. Charlie first played with the Lyric Band in 1979 for the Memorial Day parades, and after Charlie and Jolene were married in 1980, the Fennells were more involved with raising a family in West Virginia. And once Emily was born once the family returned to Hanover, as well as pursuing their careers in education. As fate would have it, Charlie's father-in-law, Merle, is also a member of the Lyric Band and would get Charlie a spot in the trombone section for the few summer concerts when the Fennells were in town, and especially on Memorial Day when the band needed musicians who could, imagine this, march and play at the same time. We need more of those right now, too. When the Fennells left Morgantown, West Virginia in '88, where Charlie was a student in the doctoral program in history and was employed as a history instructor, Charlie became a more frequent participant of the Lyric Band. For the last 30 years, he could be seen, for the most part, on trombone, but for 3 years played tuba as well, and was also a trustee of the band for several years. Charlie is an active participant in other musical organizations, including the Hanover Symphony Orchestra and the Littlestown Area Municipal Band. Today, Charlie is employed as an adjunct professor of history and geography at Harrisburg Area Community College, Gettysburg campus, and he's a licensed battlefield guide at the Gettysburg National Military Park. Charlie wants to thank the Lyric Band for putting up with him all these years. Hasn't been that bad, Charlie, really. And giving him the opportunity to continue to perform challenging music at a high level. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Fennell. I think it would be great to take a moment, too, to finally also recognize the number of life members that we have playing in the band right now. So would all our life members please stand? If you count up the years of service that these folks that you see up here, plus a couple of more who are not playing, you probably have well over 300 years of service to this organization. And that's what's made this organization as good and as strong as it is, because we have people who are willing to put their time in and spend so much time and their belief in this organization. So we thank all of them and we honor them today. So. Now, the next piece we're going to do for you was written by Glenn Osser. He graduated from the University of Michigan and started writing arrangement for big bands, including the Paul Whiteman Band. He later wrote for radio and TV shows. One of his most popular compositions for concert band is our next selection, Beguine for Band. that's basically it. Happy birthday, Lyric Band. We're 85 years old, 85 years strong, and we hope to continue being strong as we go through. It would be completely rude of me if I didn't thank all of you, because it's your presence here and your support of the Lyric Band that allows us to exist, quite frankly. I have a lot of thanks to give, but number one is you folks here, you folks contributing. Many of you contribute financially to the band, and we thank you so much for all of that. We also wanted to make a couple real special thank yous for this event. First of all, to thank the staff of the Emory Markle Intermediate School and also the Southwestern School District for allowing us to put on this program today. And we also want to especially thank Mr. Ray Evelyn for his assistance in producing this program and allowing us to use his large percussion equipment so we don't have to be hauling that stuff in here. So we thank all of them for all their cooperation and for allowing us to be here. Once again, as I said, I wanted to thank all of you for your support. There's a number of ways, here's the commercial now, there's a number of ways that you can support the Lyric Band financially. Some of them actually don't hurt at all. So one way that won't hurt a bit, trust me, you'll love it, is the little flyer that you have in your programs today. If you take this flyer on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week to the Texas Roadhouse, at Eisenhower Road or Eisenhower Drive in Hanover from 3 until 10 p.m. each of those days, 10% of your food order will be donated to the Lyric Band of Hanover. Now, I can't think of a better way than to enjoy a good steak and know that I'm supporting this musical group. That's fantastic, so I hope all of you can take advantage of that. And that's just one way in which we do it. We are currently wrapping up our campaign for patrons and sponsors of our program ad, this program booklet that we do here. We produce this each year. And of course, this marks our last program for the 2017 and 18 concert series. We'll start our new concert series on Memorial Day weekend when we begin down in Hanover State Park again. Well, we're currently raising funds to be able to do our concert series again for the next year. We have not taken any government money, grant money, anything like that. We're self-sustaining. It's strictly through the generosity of audience members like you, our patrons, and also the folks who take out ads in our program book. Like I said, that campaign's coming to an end. I think the due date is April the 21st, and there's a couple of different ways in which you can support us in that fashion if you're interested. I believe it's page, I'm sorry, I think I lost it. It's 17? No. There's a page in here that describes 15, page 15 in your program book, describes how you can become a patron, the different giving levels that you have, or if you're interested in advertising in our program. We annually play, particularly in the Park series, for about 7,000 people each year. So there's great coverage for your business in case you would be interested in taking an ad out for our program. That's also on page 15. All of that information can also be gotten from our website, www.lyricband.org. Click on Support the Band, and you'll see PDF copies of the forms that you can fill out and send to us to have your ad or have your name involved as a patron. We also have, believe it or not, a GoFundMe going on right now. So if you're into that, just go to GoFundMe.com, type in Lyric Band, and our campaign will come up. And you can also contribute that way very easily. That's really, really quick. There's also in our booklet here ways that describe how you can involve yourself with supporting us by buying Yankee Candle products. We have an ongoing Yankee Candle sale that goes on. If you go to yankeecandlefundraising.com, using our group number, we receive 40% of your purchase. So if you like Yankee Candle and you buy Yankee Candle, go to the website and help us out. You get a gain from that. Also, we're on Amazon Smile. If you shop Amazon, go to smile.amazon.com. All right, you will log in with your Amazon username and password and get on the Smile website. And then all you have to do, we are a designated charity, you designate that your purchase is going to go to our credit, and whatever purchases you have on Amazon, we get 0.5% of your purchase. So that's also another painless way. And it doesn't cost you anything extra. Neither the Yankee Candle nor the Amazon Smile costs you extra. So we absolutely thank you for your support on that. Have I gotten everything, Mr. President? Did I catch it all? No? Oh, okay. Why did you shake your head? What did I miss? Oh, he shook his head no, and he says, no, you're fine. I'm good then. Anyway, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. We hope you've enjoyed it. The last thing I do want to do is to thank these musicians behind me, because they have to put up with my guff and deal with that for week upon week and getting these concerts ready. So, join me, please, in thanking Hanover's Wind Symphony for the Lyric Theater of Hanover. And we have a birthday banquet coming up right after this concert, so they're all saying, would you shut up, we're hungry. So, for our last tune, we are going to do, of course, a march. It's entitled Bravura. It was written in 1918 by Charles Edward Dublé. Mr. Dublé was a trombone player with circus bands for 23 years and wrote about 45 circus marches. Bravura March. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful evening and a safe trip home.